This video will cover the rules and infractions that apply to History Day projects. We will discuss how to identify rules violations and how to address them. Remember, History Day is a contest with rules, but not about rules. We will reference the National History Day rulebook several times throughout this video. Find the link to the rulebook in the video description. This quote is taken from page 12. According to the rulebook, failure to comply with the rules will count against an entry. This means a lower ranking for the project. Please pay attention to the note on the bottom. While rule infractions may prevent an entry from advancing, they are not grounds for disqualification from a competition. We do not use the term disqualified lightly. The goal of the National History Day program is to help students improve and learn. We prefer to give students as much feedback as possible, and removing them from the contest means that they don't get that feedback. So, what are the grounds for disqualification of an entry? There are 4 reasons for disqualification of an entry, and only the contest coordinator can decide to remove an entry. The 4 reasons related to academic integrity are entry into multiple contests, reusing a project, plagiarizing, or tampering with other entries. If you suspect these, please contact your contest staff. Do not try to address the issue yourself. Most rules do not result in disqualification. The rules you see here apply more generally to projects and to the contest day, but are important for you to remember. First, all students' projects must relate to the annual theme, which is evaluated in the evaluation sheet. All entries must be submitted in English unless otherwise approved. Other languages may be used if translations are provided by the students. The Reasonable Help Guideline is described in great detail in the rulebook, but it defines what students are responsible for and what they can receive assistance with. Costumes are not permitted for students in categories other than performance. However, students may choose to dress in something that might be unfamiliar to you but is actually the student's personal or cultural expression. This is protected at the contest. Prohibited materials are specified in the rulebook and may be elaborated upon at your specific contest. Finally, the interview with the judges has certain guidelines. Students are not permitted to give a formal prepared introduction that would act as an addendum to their project, but should use the time to speak with you. These rules are in addition to the category-specific rules that were covered in video 3 and are found on pages 22 to 36 of the NHD rulebook. Please make sure you review the rules for your category once assigned. A note about word counts. Word counts are pretty tricky to get right. The History Day rulebook goes into detail about how to count numbers, dates, and names. Some categories have more specific rules on what type of text to count. For example, in a historical paper, the quotes from a primary or secondary source count towards the total. However, for an exhibit, quotes from primary or secondary sources do not count. If a student does not have their word count in their submitted paperwork, one of your team should count it for a rules verification. Additionally, if it seems like a student's work is too long, you should count it. As we have mentioned, rules violations may result in a project ranking lower, but it also might not result in any strong penalty. This is the difference between major and minor infractions. Minor infractions are those that do not give up the students or group a competitive advantage. We want to give the students the chance to improve as they move forward. Errors like exceeding word limit by 1 sentence or going over the time limit due to a falling prop are all not strong enough violations to supersede an otherwise excellent project. However, they should be mentioned in the comments of the evaluation sheet and could help in the event of a tie. Major infractions are those that do give students a competitive advantage. This includes exceeding a word limit by enough to add in a new argument. It also includes if website multimedia is over the limit by a significant amount, or if a student fails to provide citations for a significant amount of their work. These should result in a lower ranking and prevent the project from moving forward. Remember that these rules are used to even the playing field for students. We don't want a student who has used more space than another and therefore been able to create a more in-depth project to advance, as this is not fair to the other students. We will now ask you some real-world examples taken from past contests. Try pausing the video and thinking through the question on your own. Then continue to see what the Maryland History Day staff recommends. In this situation, a student has inserted a full 30-minute documentary into their website page. It also appears that they have too many words, but you can't remember which words count for the website category. This one is definitely a major infraction. This is severely over the media limit, and the inclusion of a full documentary allows them to introduce new themes and ideas that they would have otherwise had to edit out. Meanwhile, if you think the student has too many words, you can always refer back to the NHD rulebook to review the specific rules. Your judge group may want to designate one person as a counter, or divide up the projects between the group for word count review. Next example, you are prejudging the documentary category, and a student has a process paper that references last year's theme. Is this plagiarism, or is it reuse of a project? Or is it just an error on the student's part? What should we do about this? At Maryland History Day, we allow some space for uploading errors when we are able. Therefore, if you notice an error in a prejudged category, you can bring it to the contest coordinator's attention. In this case, we were able to verify that the process paper was identical to the student's submission for the previous year and therefore not plagiarism of another project. When we contacted the students, they sent us the correct document immediately, and therefore it was not purposeful reuse. The student did not advance or receive a prize, but they were able to have their full work reviewed and judged fairly. This is another tricky situation. A junior level paper appears to have much more advanced language and grammar than some others in the group. Could this be plagiarism or perhaps parental involvement in the paper? In the real life instance, the judge group had a university staff member who could run the paper through her plagiarism checker. It came up clear, but one judge still had reservations about the project. We reminded him that a student might be an excellent author. It is also possible that the student, in an attempt to write a standout paper, has used a thesaurus to replace some words in their paper. This is not any kind of violation, but you may want to let the student know that her writing could be simpler. If clear, assume best intent from a student. Here are some key takeaways from this video. First, the rules are intended to level the playing fields for students, not give them a barrier to jump over. Size, media, and time limits are all meant to help student work be around the same size. Next, we want you to find opportunities for students' growth. NHD uses rule violations as learning opportunities. This means that all infractions should be noted and explained in the comments, whether they are major or minor. This helps students improve for the next projects that they work on. The last thing we want for students is to feel like history is just about rules. Finally, if you're unsure about the regulations, you can just ask. Your judge group and contest coordinator are always available to support you. Thank you for joining Maryland History Day. Next up is Video 7, Evaluating Historical Argument and the Theme.